I was in an infantry unit, Company M, 175th Infantry, Maryland National Guard, and then later mobilized into the service. A basic infantry company, you got a rifle, a mortar, a machine gun, and stuff like that. So that's your basic stuff. And the National Guard at that time was really half a joke because the equipment they got was woefully negligent, or we were using stovepipe to simulate a mortar. We did have rifles. And we trained for 2 years, weekends and a couple of summer camps, one in the St. Lawrence River and one at Camp Landing in Florida. And then we were coming back from Camp Landing the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed. We're all standing around washing up on a Sunday morning. And the universal talk to each other was, what's going to happen to our furloughs? Shows you when you're not too...
That's you, I'm assuming.
Yes. Visiting my brother, who was a gunner on a B-17. I had to take a train to go to his camp a couple times when I got a day or two for a trip. I visited him. The last time I visited him, when I went to visit him, he was not in camp. Nobody would talk to me. At the moment I was visiting, they didn't know if he was living or dead because his B-17 was shot down. As it turned out, subsequently, the Red Cross notified me that he had been wounded and hurt his back and he became a prisoner of war. We were the first big unit, as a unit, to go to England on the Queen Elizabeth. Not the Queen Mary, the Queen Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. Because it could take a lot of people and we didn't have any guard for submarines because they said this ship was too fast for the submarines. They couldn't get monitored it on you, so the negligible value to have ships guarding you.
Right.
So we made it to England. England for 1942 for 2 years, training at a place called Tidbury, and that's somewhere in southern England. And then we went out to Devonshire, where the prison is. There's moors there. It's like desolate land for training. Then we were also in a place called Penzance. Mm-hmm. Penzance, and it's next to, it's almost to the end of the country, Land's End at the time. And we trained there. And then, of course, we trained also with jumping out of the boats, which was the D-Day invasion.
Right.
And then we were in the D-Day invasion on the first day, our company, and I made it through. It was messy. Some guys didn't make it because the boats couldn't always get up so close to the shore. And if you stepped out, you came with a lot of heavy baggage. You would step out into the water unless you could get your feet solid water or ground, you drowned. So it was very messy. You couldn't get up on the beach straight up. You had to go through defiles. So when we saw an opening at this one particular spot, you went up and they were being shot at all the time. Not only with bullets, with shells. So it was just a case of your luck, that's all. Sometimes the guy made it, sometimes he didn't. Because when a shell explodes, it's not only hits it here, it's depending.
Goes everywhere.
Goes everywhere within the perimeter, and that's why people get shrapnel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
See.
And you were not injured at all?
No. We fought through Normandy, a distance, through what they call the hedgerows. The villages there had small fields, and each field was, in this particular area, had a huge mound of dirt, maybe 6 or 8 foot. And that's the way they made it, so their small operation farming was each hedgerow was had a different product. But for our concern, to go from one hedgerow to the other was messy because you couldn't get through it normally. You had to fight through it. We wound up at a place called St. Lo. And at that time, we were as far as they wanted to send us so that other units of the Army could proceed further and faster. I woke up one morning in St. Lo with a partial paralysis of the face called Bell's palsy. And this, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the question in the battalion aid station, have you been sleeping down on the ground? Which was hilarious because that's all we've been doing. There was no inside. Anyway, that got me back to the aid station, to the next station, back to England. So I stayed in there, and then guess what? The war ended. And by that time I had 92 points from National Guard, D-Day invasion, North European. I got some box up there with medals I can show you. I had 92 points. So it was time to move on. Those who had 85 or less were being selected and formed into new units prior to the South Pacific, not the South Pacific, Japan. During one stay there, I had achieved a corporal. And somewhere along the line, I was going to have a furlough. So they gave me the furlough. Then one day they called me in, do you want to go a day early on your furlough? I said, sure, why not? But they didn't tell me to come back a day early. I came back the day designated. So it means I was AWL one day. So they busted me to private. One time I cut my finger opening up a can of C rations. The rations now are superior. You had cans of rations like this.
Mm-hmm.
You open them up with a little can opener.
Right.
I cut my finger and went back to the station to get a Band-Aid or something fixed up. A week or two later, they came along and wanted to give me a Purple Heart. I said, why you give me a Purple Heart? Well, you've been back to the station, so and so. I said, I can't accept this. I wish I had accepted it, but I didn't accept it.
Did you have any idea about like what was going on in Germany?
No.
In terms of the Holocaust or anything like that?
No.
So it wasn't any, it
No.
didn't have a motivating factor or anything
No.
like that?
Because you have no way, first thing, today and tomorrow and the next day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, those days don't count. If I wake up in the field and the sun is shining, if I have a calendar with me, I know what day it is. It had some small significance in civilization. But when you're in the field, it doesn't matter what day it is. It's the same thing. You happen to read the GI paper or whatever, I forget the name of it, put out. And it has about the war and our soldiers and about this guy getting an award and this guy getting an award and so on, but nothing about history, about the camps and so on. And insofar as infantry fighting is fighting, you know about as much about the war as the ant on the ground. You know the guy next to you.
But nothing else. You're not really.
Is he there?
Right.
And is he awake? It's got to be awake. And if we're going to move on, he'll wake you up, or he'll shake you, or he'll say, come on. That's your extent of it. His name is Eugene Resnicoff, born November 7th, 1917. And as of Friday, which is just a day or two ago, I became 91 years old.